Ready, set, go!
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference. It's in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th, 2023, Setting the Standard, Transformation Through Accreditation. You don't want to miss it. Register now at msche.org.
Surprise!
We're taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us for an incredible higher education marketing and enrollment management conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. I'm your guest host for this episode, Bill Pepicello, and I'm filling in for Dr. Joe Salustio, who is the regular host of this program, and he's off doing something, God knows where, God knows what he's doing. I am the former president of University of Phoenix, and I also host my own podcast, which comes out every Monday. It's called EdUp Insights, and I'm author of the book Leadership on the Field of Play, available on Amazon. And with that, let me first introduce my guest co-host for the day. This is Dr. Marvin Loiseau, who's the Dean of Academics and Chief Academic Officer at Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology. Welcome, Marvin.
Hello.
Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
And our very special guest today is Dr. Dumaine Williams, who is the Vice President of Early Colleges at Bard College. And we're going to first welcome you, Dumaine.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And then we're going to find out a little bit about what you do and how you do it. So I think let's start with that. Tell us, what is early colleges and how does it work?
Yes, so thank you so much, Bill. Early Colleges is a dual enrollment program that allows students who are generally high school age to engage in college level coursework. This is work that Bard College has done for over 2 decades now in the public sector. So our first early college, we opened in New York City back in 2001. And the way the school works is that students, again, who are high school age, so generally 14 to 18 years old, enrolled in a public school program that is, for all intents and purposes, part of their high school experience. But embedded in that high school experience is 2 years of college coursework. And so the students in 11th and 12th grade will have the opportunity to take college level courses that count towards 2 things. One is it counts towards their high school requirements for graduation from the local school district and for the state. But the courses that are accredited through Bard College in our model also allow the students progress towards a college degree, an associate's degree. And so students complete these courses over the 4 years, with the 2 years, again, of the last 2 years focused on college coursework. And when students graduate, they graduate with a high school diploma as well as the associate's degree from Bard College. And this is all for students free of cost as part of their public school education.
Wow. And how do they apply for this program?
Yes, so first I'll mention that the program has grown over the years. And so we now have 9 of these campuses. I mentioned that our first one opened but that was just the beginning. And our most recent campus opened in the Bronx this fall, in fall 2023. For all of our campuses, the application process mirrors a college application process. Students fill out, submit their academic records. They fill out an application form with often writing samples and essays, opportunities for them to interview. We run a holistic application process that's, again, very similar to the one that we adopt at the undergraduate liberal arts college, Bard College. Getting a sense of who the students are, what they're interested in doing. Granted, most of our applicants are 13 to 14-year-olds, but they're thinking about college. They're thinking about what they want to do, how a high school college program like this fits into their larger plans. and we help them and their families navigate that process. Our campuses tend to be pretty selective just because, as you can imagine, this is an attractive model for many students and many families. But we work with them all to make the admissions decisions that make the most sense for us and for the families. And we choose a class based on those criteria.
Ah, well, let me do one follow-up and then I'll throw it over to you, Marvin. What does your curriculum basically consist of, Dumaine?
Yeah, so it's a liberal arts curriculum. Again, it's modeled after the college, the undergraduate curriculum at Bard College. So it's very much liberal arts focused. There isn't a specific area of major or focus. It's really focused on general educational requirements, making sure students have a wide range of and a breadth of exposures. So students have to take classes in science and classes in arts, courses in humanities, having them take those courses that you would normally see for a traditional undergrad in the freshman and sophomore year. Students do those courses and then will fulfill specific general education requirements. The idea is that then when they leave us, the vast majority of our students transfer to a four-year institution afterwards, and they have completed some of those very foundational requirements with us, which allows them to hit the ground running at their new institution. One, being academically more prepared for a bachelor's program, but also having these credits in their pocket, which can really be beneficial to students as they are saving time and saving money, working towards the college degree, which we all know is quite expensive and can be a barrier to many students who don't have those resources to pay for the degrees.
Okay. Marvin, you want to follow up on some of that?
Sure. At Franklin Cummings Tech, we have a similar program that you guys have at Bard College. How do you, for us, it was one of the challenges that we faced because we are open enrollment college, was making sure that students are ready and prepared. And since you have an application process, how selective are you in selecting students to participate in the program? Because for us, because we're open enrollment college, most of the students are coming to us. They are looking at our programs. They are looking mostly to take the same course that you are offering to your students, like the general education, mathematics, sciences, less technical, but the rigors of our curriculum, even though that we're open enrollment, we still have the same standards as all the other colleges and making sure that students are ready. So how do you maintain an application process for selecting the students and continuously getting students to participate in early college?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And the application process and enrollment piece is a challenge and something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about, because at the core of this model, as you can tell, it's about access to education, and we want to make sure that we provide access to as many students as we can, realizing that obviously there has to be a selection process and that we need to balance all these different needs. And so one of the things that we do is do a lot of outreach to really help people understand what early college is. First step is, what are you signing up for? What is this program? How do credits work? What goes into an associate's degree? How can an associate's degree help you get into figuring out a plan to a bachelor's degree? So a lot of what we do is really just about educating the students and oftentimes their families, their parents, their loved ones about what that is. The next step is, as the students navigate the application process, to really work with them and to think about not just their past academic record, but also the potential. And that word is a loaded word, but what are the academic potentials can we see a student like this with access, with a seat at the table? Will they be able to fill in some gaps, figure out where they need to go, and really make the best of this opportunity? And we try to really find that balance. We don't have, for example, we don't have a minimum GPA. We don't look at standardized test scores. That's not the way that we're trying to gauge who the students are. We're really trying to build a class based on those access points and also the students who we think will benefit the most from the experience, and we'll work together as a cohort. The other part that's really important to this question is the fact that we do, in fact, have the other 2 years, right? I mentioned it's a 4-year program, and then the first 2 years is the college prep. So we do have the students internally for 2 years in which we are preparing them for that entry point in of college coursework. And so that's the time when we're trying to figure out, are the students where they need to be in terms of their writing skills, or students being able to figure out basic skills around reading and computation and math and all of that, so that when they take that first college course, that we've done some work getting them ready for it. And that's all built into our model. So our faculty who teach in the college program and actually work with students as they're earning credits also teach in this pre-college 9th and 10th grade program, to really help us do that assessment of what are the skills, what do the students need to get ready. So when we're saying to them, okay, this is your first college level math course, we think backwards. Okay, what did they need to do in those 2 years prior to that first college level math course to get ready? And it really also keeps us as educators, keeps us honest and keeps us realizing that we are the ones who need to prepare them, and not something that happens in education a lot, as you all know, is kind of thinking about where the students may have not followed through, right? So if a student shows up in your class who doesn't have the skills, oftentimes you think of, okay, who did they have last year? Who did they have at their last institution? Who should have done the work? We try to take that responsibility ourselves. Okay, it's our responsibility to take these students, get them college ready. We have 2 years working with them. Then they start the college coursework, and then the work continues. We still have to scaffold, we still have to fill in, we still have to work on certain aspects of college readiness with them. But that's part of the mission. Part of it is signing up to do that work and to really have the students leave us even more prepared than they would have been to show up at a foreign institution where, again, most of our students go, really ready to engage and to become bona fide college students that are able to, we know, again, lots of students spend a lot of time in courses for remediation when they're in college, and again, using student loans and other things for courses that they should have had before entering that college setting. We try to work with our students to make sure that isn't what's happening, that they show up really ready to keep running on that track that they're on towards that degree.
Great. So they're taught by your college faculty?
Yes. So Bard College, for all of our models, all of our schools, we recruit faculty for these programs specifically. We are looking for folks with the college teaching experience, college credentials, obviously, the accreditation standards that we need to possess, which often is terminal degrees in their field and experience teaching and scholarship in their area. But these faculty also need to be invested in the model and working with younger students and a younger age group, and all that means developmentally, right? Teaching this coursework, for example, let's say you're teaching a course on looking at Shakespeare, right? Teaching that so the high school level can work, and teaching at the college level may work, but there's a difference in how you're going to approach that, the expectations, how you're going to approach what you need from the students, how you're going to scaffold that work, or you're going to start with the students as an entry point that you need to be aware of. And we work a lot with teacher training as well. So we hire these professors, these folks with college teaching experience, but we do a lot of work with them to make sure that they are understanding how to apply this work to a younger population of students. And because our courses are all for students who are early college students, so all who are younger, we're able to make some of those adjustments on a wider scale, as opposed to a model where you may have 1 or 2 younger students in a class that is actually for traditional age students, right? They're joining a class where everybody else is in their 20s and they're in there as well, working alongside. This is slightly different because we're developing the class knowing that everyone in the room is 16, 17. And what does that look like in terms of how we present the material? How do we work through the discussion? And how do we scaffold things like responses to the readings, having students do the writing, revision, group work, etc.
Aside from the age factor, what's the basic profile of students who come through your program?
Yeah, most are first, again, it's most of the access points, most are first generation students, many of whom are really have very specific goals around careers that they want. Typical seeing students who would like to be artists or students who would like to be lawyers and things like that, but they don't necessarily have within their family that, examples of other members who've been on that track. And so early college seems as a really attractive model for them to help them navigate what that looks like. We're in communities like Baltimore, Newark, New Orleans, DC, New York City, I mentioned before. And so we often reflect the demographics of those communities in terms of race and other socioeconomic demographics there. Not surprisingly, this model is more attractive to students who identify as female than it is students who identify as male. So we do see a gender breakdown at the campuses where the majority of our students are identified as female in terms of the population that we serve. But yeah, those are the kind of the basic overall. But I think for a lot of them, the first gen, many of the students for the districts that track it are free and reduced lunch students. So there are high needs in terms of socioeconomics as well.
Let me do one more follow-up, and then Marvin, I'll throw it back to you again. Do you track your students after they leave this program? I know some probably stay with you and then some transfer. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of success they have once they leave?
Yes, we do track our students. We generally do a lot of the tracking through the National Clearinghouse. So using that data set as the students work their way through their bachelor's degree programs and beyond. And we've seen some really great successes. We've done a few studies looking at our students compared to other cohorts from similar regions and how they've done. And we've really been impressed by what we've seen. Our students have gone on. The persistence in the bachelor's programs has been extremely high. Our graduation rates through those programs, both in a shortened time frame, right? So some students will take this and graduate in 2 to 3 years with a bachelor's degree, and some will stay for the full 4 years, and some will continue even beyond that. But the percentages are really great. Our earliest cohorts with over 80% of students really graduating in that shortened time frame, which with the bachelor's degree, which is way above national average. We're seeing. We've also looked specifically at cohorts, and we've seen that this has really been in the early years really impactful for specific cohorts. One that's notable was that we saw significant increase in terms of the number of students who identify as African American men who went through our program and then went on to complete bachelor's degree programs with this Head Start in early college. So we have been tracking our alums, and we're really excited. Part of the reason why we've been able to grow to 9 campuses is that we've been able to see this real benefit, that this work that we do really carries on as the students go to a traditional institution to complete their bachelor's degree and beyond, and that we are really seeing that really it's doing what we want it to do, which is that it helps students feel prepared for college, and that when they get there, they're able to navigate and earn their degrees.
Should you register for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference this December 4th through 6th in Philadelphia?
100%.
I agree, because the title of the conference is called Setting the Standard, Transformation Through Accreditation. There is no time like the present to explore opportunities in higher education and the future for our students and our business model. Get out and network with your peers this December 4th through 6th at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference.
Attention.
Are you ready to elevate your institution's marketing and enrollment strategies? Join the EdUp Experience podcast at the Insights EDU conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Don't miss out on this opportunity to hear from engaging speakers from industry-leading companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and higher ed leaders. Learn the latest marketing and enrollment strategies to grow your programs. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Attention.
Marvin, you want to take over here?
Yes. So one of the things that is happening here in Massachusetts is there's a huge push for early college education, and there used to be this war between AP and IB curriculum versus choosing an early college and curriculum. And it would be interesting. So now with the early college here in Massachusetts, we have the early college designation, and there is which is similar in New York, they have the PTEC. In the southern states like North Carolina and Texas, they have the early college high schools. So there's each state has their own thing around early college, which interestingly enough, the southern states is really doing a lot more than how we're doing it here. Could you talk a little bit about how you feel that Bard College is trying to stay on top of all the innovative things that are happening around here in Massachusetts and around some of the things like what's happening in New York City and the southern states with P-Tech and early college high school, and how you plan to remain competitive in this newly recognized early college setting.
Yes, no, definitely. That's a great question. And I think the first thing I'll say is that as this is access work, more access is good, right? So we are competitors, but at the same time, the fact that, and we're excited to see that states are pushing more of this work. We're excited that, again, we've been at this table, we've been doing this work since 2001, and we're excited now that what used to feel to us like a very small little group is grown to this large group where there's so many other folks talking about high school and college and intersection. So that's all positive. We welcome more providers in that space, first of all. But your question about how do we keep our edge is an important one, right? That we spend a lot of time thinking about. I think the main part for us is the level of investment, right? I think for BARD, at the core, what we do is a fully embedded program, and it's with all the supports, right? There's lots of other models where, again, students have access to a course here or there. Students may be able to, as I mentioned before, join an existing pathway with other students that are not early college students and earn credits that way. And that works for a lot of students. For the students that we work with, one of the things that we've realized is the level of supports that's needed for students to do this work well and to do this work in a way that is going to set them up for success. And so one of the big parts of the BARD approach is that it isn't light touch, right? We, again, run full schools where you go into the building and there are hundreds of students taking college classes and working towards a degree. That's a good thing for you as a student doing it because you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with a whole cohort. We run schools, again, where the expectation is that everyone in this building who's in this school is going to take college classes, right? And the goal is that everyone's working towards an associate's degree. That's a pretty high bar, which is separate from a school that has an IB or AP program where some select group of students will opt in to take these courses. And if they do well on their test, then they will one day get college credit, right? That's a model that works for many schools, but it's not the same as this kind of high touch way that BARD does it. So that's a real big difference. And then the other part related to that is the commitment with the community, right? So BARD, for all the places that we have, what I mentioned, that we have in Baltimore, we have it in DC, we have it in Cleveland, New Orleans, all of these are commitments of partnerships between the college and those school districts to say, we're going to do this work together, right? We're going to work so that students across the city of Cleveland have access to this thing that is happening. Not just one principal somewhere saying, okay, I have an IB program, I have an AP program, or you can take classes at a local community college. And that happens, and that's great when it happens. But the level of commitment to say, okay, we're going to have a school program embedded in Cleveland, DC, Baltimore, the Bronx, right? We just opened in the South Bronx, which has been, for many years, we've been talking about the fact that the South Bronx is underserved. And so it's good that we can say, okay, here's a whole program for students where everyone in this building who is taking this course is on this track. And so that's been a big part of what set BARD apart. And then I think another part of it really is our approach to the faculty that I mentioned before. That's fairly unique for us to think about a full cohort of faculty that are all working, and their main job is to work with high school age students in college settings. That is very different from what many faculty at the higher ed and at the K-12 experience. We have higher ed faculty who occasionally see a high school age student in their class here or there, and we have high school faculty who sometimes reach up and say, okay, I'm teaching this class that's going to give college credit through IB or AP program. We really are looking at the intersection there and creating a whole new category, if you like, of faculty who are really thinking about, okay, how do we work with this population of students in the context of higher ed work? And so that's what's the core of our work here. We've been doing a lot of thinking at BARD about how to help push the conversation even further and to get more colleges and universities excited about this work. We've done a lot of work at the state and at the federal level to think about how all this gets funded in a way that really is sustainable and meets the needs of these communities. And is frankly a way to be smart about the investments that we make in education, because as we all know, there's a lot of investments in K-12, a lot of investments in higher education. That's made. And how do you get smart about getting the best out of both of those worlds and the best for your investment as well.
That sound familiar to you, Marvin?
Yes. And so what's interesting for us is that we are applying for early college designation, which is, as you can imagine, is a very daunting, long process that the high schools need to take on. And it's just a lot of work. And that's for us to be able to get some of the minimal funding that the state is providing to help make this sustainable. You definitely, so I was actually going to ask a question around financial financial stability of the program, because we used to have this program as a free program. We just transitioned it to be a pay for service program because all the community colleges around us are getting like state funding to help pay for these students to take classes. And we were being left out on a lot of state funding for early college education. And it's definitely interesting to hear how you're able to do it, because you're saying that you have early college faculty only teaching courses. It's definitely really interesting to hear that. And you're not charging the students. So how are you making it work financially? So is the college really having a separate budget line item for this as an investment, or is it just you guys going out to fundraise?
Yeah, so I think at the core of I mentioned this before, that this is a real partnership between BARD and the local school district, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that is working through an arrangement with the local school district about leveraging existing public dollars, right? At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
this work that we're doing in the public sphere. And so there is a lot of work with our various memorandums of understanding that the college has with the partner district about the funding, and that's meant to really help. But that doesn't, as you can imagine, doesn't fill the gap completely, and there's always going to be more funding. And that's where we do fundraising, we do leverage the local philanthropic community. Many times the conversations that we have are conversations around, we tried so many different things to help with K-12. We try so many things to help with outcomes, post-graduation for students. We really do see this BARD approach as a real good investment because of the track record in terms of what we can do. So we do that and leverage philanthropic support that way. The college BARD, to its credit, has stepped up for decades and has really helped us with that piece financially as well. But a lot of this is really leveraging the public funds, both locally and sometimes at the state level. So in New York, we do go into the budgets for the state in Albany, and we talk about these schools existing and how can we support these schools, and is there money set aside specifically for dual enrollment or early college at the state level, as you're mentioning in Massachusetts, that we can access for schools. And so there's a lot of that. But at the end of the day, for me, I do still stand that it is a fairly easy thing to explain to folks. Okay, here's what we're doing. We're really working within existing systems, high school, college, higher ed, and we are creating a pathway that is being smarter and more efficient about how we use our funds. It is the opposite of what we often are critiqued of doing, which is that we spend a lot of money, we have low graduation rates at the K-12 level, then the students go to community college or to four-year college, and then we spend more money and they don't get the degrees, they don't get the credits. We really look at the model that we have and say, okay, we're doing the opposite. We're trying to get them more in a shorter period of time. And so that's a good investment of your money. It's just basic economics, right? If you put this money in and the students can graduate with a high school diploma and the associate's degree in 4 years versus a 4-year high school diploma and 2 years with hopes of an associate's degree, or it really works. But yes, but there's a lot of time and effort spent cultivating those relationships, getting that message across at the school level, at the district level, the philanthropic community, oftentimes at the state level as well. But we've been at this for a while, and I think that's been really helpful for us to have those relationships and have that track record to really point to as we go out and do that fundraising and making this all work.
Yeah, so what you really have to do is, I don't want to say sell because that's too hard a word, but educate people as to the return on investment in this,
Yeah.
because what you're really talking about, both of you actually, is getting students early and keeping the pipeline to higher education open, which I think is really commendable and something that, from my perspective, over a number of years, is something higher education needs very badly right now. So that once we have students, we don't let go of them. We keep them moving, because right now we're losing lots of students in high school and after high school. And programs like the two of you are working on are really, I think, very important to the ecosystem, to use that term right now. But I want to, because I can, since I'm the host, I want to change directions here a little bit. And I want to talk about you, Dumaine, because if I read some information correctly, where I'm going, don't you?
Think
You
so.
have a PhD
Yes,
in molecular and cellular pharmacology.
that is correct.
What?
Out of yeah.
And you were in this program in Cleveland, which I'm originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, right down
Oh,
there.
that's good. Yeah.
But how the heck did you get where you are? Tell us about your journey.
Yes, that is correct. I am a biologist by training. The key here to my current role is that I did my undergrad at Bard College. And I'm going to age myself by saying I was an undergrad when Bard opened that first school in 2001. So I was literally on the college campus doing my regular thing as an undergrad, getting my bachelor's degree. And I was told that my school that I was attending was opening a high school early college program. And that didn't mean much to me as a 20-year-old or whatever at the time. So I went off grad school, research track, doing the traditional kind of writing for NIH grants, doing research publishing, but also teaching on the side. And I realized that I had a real interest in teaching, but first at the higher ed in college, and then eventually with high school age students. Just as an aside, I started working on a summer program and a Saturday program that had high school age students. That all got me really interested in this idea. And one of the things that I saw, my research was first on diabetes, and I was doing a lot of work with communities. But one of the things I realized through my bio research was that the real core of some of these problems that we were encountering weren't actually just the medical things, but it was a lot of the same access pieces and education, people not knowing things about food and nutrition, and people not having access to the necessary tools to understanding how things work. And so in a very drastic shift of a career, Bard was opening a campus in New Jersey, and it was in Newark, where we still have a campus. And this got a lot of attention because it was a partnership between then Mayor Cory Booker, who was the mayor of Newark at the time, and Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook had given a lot of money to Newark. And they were opening many schools, and one of the schools that they wanted to open was this Bard school. And so I joined that jump ship, and joined the founding team of that school, going back to work for my alma mater and thinking about education on a very different level than I've been thinking about it before. And I was the founding dean there. And then I went on, and then I was interested in getting some training in education, because I'd been in a PhD program and done all that work, but hadn't actually been trained as an educator. So I went back and got a master's in education and leadership. And then with that, I became a founding principal of our campus in Cleveland, as we were in that moment of growing. Newark was our third campus, and Cleveland was our fourth. So we were set in this momentum of growing the schools. And so, yeah, I just went from teaching to really thinking about access on a bigger level, and that led me to school administration, which was not my original plan. But I still teach in the bio program here at the undergraduate college, but my main work is in administration, and has really led me to this very specific kind of early college model that I'm now working on.
Wow. Well, I have one more question, and I'm going to throw it back to you, Marvin, to see if you have anything before I wrap it up. You've talked about the fact that you have 9 campuses. Those are physical campuses, I assume.
Yes.
And do you have any online access?
Yes, we do. We do run other partnerships outside of our full campuses. The campuses I describe are the ones that are full course of study, often working towards a full associate's degree. We also have other partnerships where we offer students opportunities to take classes. And so we do that virtually. Each semester, we often offer one or two courses that are offered in after school virtually. So those are for school partners. So this semester, we're offering a social psychology course that is being offered for students to take in the evenings after school. We've done computer science and a few other electives just to get students who maybe are looking for that first entry of a college level course to do. And again, similarly, those are for free for students, and we do it through partnership with their schools. And most recently, we just announced that we're doing a series of courses virtually targeted specifically for high school students in the state of Florida. And those courses are around gender studies, African American history, and psychology, for reasons that would be obvious if you are following the news. And so that's another way in which we have been thinking about how to create these access points for students and families.
Terrific.
I'm sorry, I have to step in for that one. How are you doing that in Florida? Because I know that a friend of mine was presenting at a conference, and someone from the state of Florida contacted him, and he's from Massachusetts. He was doing a virtual session, and they contacted him asking him for his presentation plan. How are you definitely doing that?
Yeah, so the short answer is that we coincidentally, or just in circumstance, we got an accreditation through an organization called NC-SARA to do virtual coursework in 2020. And it covers lots of states, not all of them, but most states, and it includes Florida. Now we already had, and we did some virtual work in Tulsa and some in Denver that was separate from this. And so we already had it in place, and we've been using it for years, and it just happens to cover coursework that we can do in Florida. We can't offer a degree in Florida, and these are technically not dual enrollment classes. The students aren't getting high school. We're not giving high school credits in Florida. We're giving just the college piece because we're not able to provide the high school piece. But yes, we do have that foot in the door, if you will, to do this work.
Great question, Marvin. Not a bad answer either, as far as I think we're just about at the end of our time. In wrapping this up, there's one thing that we always ask. Actually, there's two things that we always ask our guests. First, what have we not asked you that you'd like to say about BARD or the early college program? And from your vantage point, how do you see the future of higher education? Because you have an interesting perspective.
Yes. So the first question, I think you've asked me most of what I was expecting. I will say, just as one area that we've been thinking about on the early college and at BARD has also been about building leadership pipelines and thinking about who in the K-12 and the higher ed world are good leaders and administrators of this work. We talk about faculty somewhat, we talk about student selection. For us, we also are thinking a lot about, okay, who are good administrators and folks to lead these campuses, lead these schools as we think about sustainability and expanding the work. And so that's something that we've been spending a lot of time thinking about on our end as well. And then in terms of the second question about, again, I'm excited about the fact that there is so much interest from lots of parties, whether they are state initiatives like the one in Massachusetts or others where there's a push for dual enrollment early college. I'm excited about that. And I think that is where a lot of this work is heading. From my perspective, I would want to make sure that all of us in the field are working together on assessment and figuring out what is working and how to replicate what's working instead of necessarily starting from scratch or reinventing the wheel type efforts, but also being really, really careful about how we assess these things. We're asking families and students and parents to put all our trust in us in terms of our ability to really deliver on what we're offering, which is that we're going to get them more prepared for college and get them on track for success. And so I think it's on us to also make sure that we are thinking a lot about how we assess that work. So I think I'm excited about that. And I think I'm hoping also that both higher ed and K-12 as their own entities will spend a lot more time thinking about the intersections, thinking about where they can work more closely with each other, because at the end of the day, if higher ed and K-12 operate more seamlessly, that will benefit students. And so that's one of the overall goals of this work, is to have the higher ed and K-12 partners that we actually spend a lot of time thinking about at Bard, having more interactions with each other, thinking about curricularly, pedagogy-wise, in terms of how we work with students, even something as simple as credit transfer. And how do those things, which are current barriers for students, how can we work together to make those barriers less of an issue, less of a challenge for students?
That's good work, and certainly encourage you and Marvin also. And with that, folks, I first want to thank my guest co-host, Dr. Marvin Lazo, who's the Dean of Academics and Chief Academic Officer at Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology. Thank you very much, Marvin.
Thank you. This was fun. Thank you so much.
It was. And we want to thank our very special guest, Dr. Dumaine Williams, who's the Vice President of Early Colleges at Bard College. And thank you very much for a very informative and entertaining session here. And we'll look forward to following both of you as you continue what is great work.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, Marvin, as well.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
And ladies and gentlemen, you have just EdUp'd.
Oh, yeah.
The Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference is in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th. Setting the standard, transformation through accreditation. Remember, only you can create transformation through networking, knowledge sharing, opportunity, leadership, service, learning, and accreditation. And you'll do all those things at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference this December 4th through 6th. Can't wait to be there. EdUp will be there. There's going to be over 1,300 attendees, presidents, provosts. The networking opportunities are off the chain. Register now at msche.org.
Oh, yeah.
Attention higher ed marketing and enrollment management professionals. We are taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us at Insights EDU on February 20th to 22nd, 2024 in Phoenix, Arizona. Gain insight into the latest higher education trends and cutting-edge marketing strategies that'll take your institution's enrollment to a whole new level. This is your opportunity to connect with higher education leaders and marketing experts from across the country. Comprehensive presentations, engaging panel discussions, and more. Insights EDU will equip you to position your institution for growth. Register now at insightsedu.com and use the code EdUp to save $50 off your registration. Can you afford to miss this conference?
I don't think so.